I got an update for you regarding the threat for severe weather, especially as we get into Saturday. Recording this on a Wednesday afternoon. Main concern is going to be after 9 o'clock Saturday morning. We're going to talk about everything else that's going on too. And there's just a lot of noise on social media. I'm just going to let you know what the data says and what you need to prepare for, because we've been through these kind of things before in the past. This is a fairly significant threat. And right now, it's just a threat of severe weather. And everything Saturday morning is conditional upon what may or may not happen overnight Friday night into Saturday morning. Maximum impact in this area in white may be just to the south, but this is where the maximum instability is. And when we go through the model guidance coming up, you're going to see that this area is going to continue to feed severe storms across North Alabama well into the afternoon hours. So that becomes a problem. If we don't get a lot of thunderstorm initially activity down here to the south, we won't get choked off, and we're just going to continue to see big storms fire along a boundary and continue throughout much of the day. So that, again, want to make sure you're aware of that. Multiple rounds of severe storms a possibility, and that's why we say unsettled. This is still the long-range guidance here. I'm going to show you some of the high-resolution guidance coming up here in a second, but it only goes out to about 1 in the afternoon Saturday. The reason this high-resolution guidance is critical is because it takes finer details, and you'll see that as we go through the data. But let's just go through this right now. A 7-day forecast, I want to show you what's going on. We got storms coming in Thursday, some smaller hail. Again, that'll be tomorrow, some locally heavy rain, and then the alert day is pretty much all day Saturday. Beyond that, the weather gets nice, some nice weather out there for St. Patrick's Day, but some issues for the St. Patrick's Day parade. I want to show you this graphic here too. If you're viewing from somewhere outside the state of Alabama or even Tennessee, this is why we get concerned this time of year, but this is nothing out of the ordinary or unusual. We get most of our tornadoes March, April, and May. We just happen to be setting the timing perfectly, unfortunately, for this storm system coming in with the instability developing ahead of it as well for a round of strong and potentially significant severe weather, not just here in North Alabama, but across the entire state. Here's this severe weather threat as we take a look at this. And what we're looking at, this is going to be roughly midnight to 5 a.m. I think we get a line of storms that fires up out here, begins to track to the east. I don't have red painted over the Huntsville metro area down to Decatur and east because there's not a lot of confidence this line is going to make it that far to the east. Now I'm going to transition this. This doesn't show the movement of the threat. It just kind of shows the different threat as we go into the 9 o'clock hour in the morning through 9 o'clock Saturday. And in fact, farther to the south in these areas from Birmingham, Montgomery, Auburn, Atlanta, we could very well see the threat of severe weather last through 5 o'clock in the morning. So I think we see supercell storms in North Alabama, South Central Alabama, and they become a line. It becomes what we call that line echo wave pattern as we go into the evening hours, and that creates that squall line threat for severe thunderstorms as it moves east. So the entire state really and the threat for these severe storms. So Saturday, 2 rounds of strong to severe storms will be possible. The first one is conditional, and it's more of a traditional line echo wave pattern moving in with the embedded risk for tornadoes, roughly 1 a.m. to 5 a.m., capable of frequent lightning, large hail, damaging winds, and a few tornadoes, as I mentioned earlier. That line doesn't show up on the high-resolution model. The main reason is because it may be too warm to support those storms. That wind is really going to be cooking from the south at about 30 to 40 miles an hour as we close out the day on Friday. And that's bringing the instability, but it's also bringing in that warm, elevated area of air. So 10 a.m. to 10 p.m., more storms. Again, Saturday morning could last all day. Keep in mind we could have multiple rounds of these storms, and I do stress that a lot because of the fact that you may lose power. If you have significant damage in your area, it may take first responders longer to get there, especially if you're in a rural area. I've seen this firsthand with the past events where you get trees down across the roads out in the county and emergency crews have to cut through all those trees to get to your location. So that's one reason you need to have plenty of water, maybe a first aid kit, things like that. You may be the one rendering first aid. And I say these things not to scare you, it's to prepare you for what we have seen in the past and what is possible as we go through this event that's coming in throughout the day. So again, watching this very closely, and I do again want to stress, what we are watching here, and that is the potential for a round of severe storms to develop. So what we have here is this initiation time, 8 a.m. in the area in orange, and these will be moving northeast, and you'll see that as we go through the data here in a second, at about 55 miles per hour. At some point, we could see a transition to more of an eastward movement with right-moving supercell type storms, so we will watch that as well. So again, we're keeping you prepared, not scared as we go through this event. Here's the Friday setup. This is 8 o'clock Friday night. Notice there's not a lot going on, and the storms may actually not even materialize. Notice this area out here. We've got area that's just too warm right here to support severe thunderstorms. So at least the model guidance says that. If that cap breaks, that's a game changer, and that means the threat of severe weather will start to move in a little bit sooner. So what I'm going to talk about now is as we transition to the morning hours. A lot of times, if we get a lot of storms overnight and then into the morning hours, we see less activity. At least the atmosphere is not as prime for severe weather. The other thing that can happen, you can get a lot of thunderstorms develop to the south of us, and that blocks off that transport of moisture to the north. The model guidance is not showing that, and that's concerning. So you're going to see, no matter where you look on social media, you're going to see all sorts of posts about it. Again, I'm trying to prepare you more to the exact impact you can expect. So here's the setup around 9:30 in the morning. Notice the cluster of thunderstorms from Tupelo to Russellville over to Moulton, and look how these just cluster and move northeast rapidly. That's in response to this low-level jet stream that's really kicking in about this time, and it's going to continue to produce very heavy rain, large hail. Also notice how the entire boundary lifts to the north. Now, here's where we kind of cross the stream, so to speak. We go from the high-resolution model guidance, which only goes out to 1 in the afternoon right now. It's going to come out later tonight. We'll have better data. It'll go out farther in time. But for right now, we're kind of stuck with this. And you can kind of see the differentiation between it. This one isn't as more specific, so to speak, as the model guidance I was just showing you. As we continue on here into about 7 o'clock in the evening, by this time we could have several areas of strong to severe storms down here, all tracking east, and at that time we may see a line also forming out to the west. So that's usually how this goes. You get some of these multi-cell thunderstorms and then supercell storms potentially, and then you get the squall line that comes through. And there it is around 5 a.m. Sunday. So a lot of timing to work out here. And what I got here, this is the storms and fuel. Notice the lack of storm activity at 2 o'clock in the morning Saturday, and notice this rich, deep moisture moving north. This is convective available potential energy. Anything above 1,000 supports severe storms. So we're looking at roughly 2,000 here, and it may get higher than that, especially if we don't get storms to the south. That's 3:30 in the morning. We'll be watching this. So this is kind of a watch and see. We may get a tornado watch Friday night through Saturday morning and nothing at all happens. I would like to see some form of rain to develop to break up this instability, but it just doesn't look like that's happening, at least in the high-resolution model guidance. Still several model runs to go. Notice by 9:30 in the morning, a closer view here shows this instability stays, it's maintained. Also keep in mind, down to the south, the instability is higher, and that's what's feeding these storms as they move northeast. As we go past 12:30, I stop here because that's where the high-resolution model guidance ends. Notice the lack of rain to the south here, and we still have this strong south wind. So at this point in time, it's possible we could start seeing these supercells develop and then tracking more in the east-northeast fashion, turning right with the high wind shear that we have in place, and also the possibility of large hail. And I think the next slide I'm going to show you is going to take you, this won't show you everything because I still have the high resolution. It's stuck on that time, but we will shift over to what we call the Energy Helicity Index. Anything above 1 is a threat for severe weather, and we've got like 4 here out to the southwest. So this would be storms developing here, moving northeast. That's 2 o'clock in the morning. Again, this is why we call it conditional instability. The atmosphere is capped at that point in time, but watch how this evolves and slowly moves to the north and east as we progress through the morning hours. So again, that's what we're watching, keeping a close eye on that, and we will keep you up to date on this severe weather event. Still several days out. Now it's time to prepare for the possibility of power outages. You may lose your Wi-Fi. If your phone dies over this prolonged period, make sure you've got your charger. You maybe have a backup charger to that. You may be listening to us on the radio if it gets bad enough, and I've posted our radio partners on our Facebook page as well. Again, this is just some advice for you. Thanks for tuning in throughout the whole video.